When interviews turn tense, the last person you want across the table is a sharp comedian. They don't just dodge traps, they dismantle them, expose the setup, and often leave the interviewer scrambling. One of the most memorable examples came when Andrew Schulz found himself in the crosshairs of a New York Times journalist who accused him of going easy on Donald Trump, claiming Schulz skipped hard-hitting economic questions, unlike how he supposedly grilled Bernie Sanders. But Schulz didn't flinch. He leaned in. "I thought it was weird I wasn't asking Trump more about economics," he said, playing along. "But wait, what did I actually ask Bernie? You mentioned inequality, sure. But policy? That's important. Except, you can't name a single policy question you think I missed." The reporter hesitated. "Well, I don't know the exact one." Schulz pounced. "So you're making an accusation without evidence? That feels like a gotcha to me." The journalist insisted it wasn't. Schulz wasn't buying it. "Then let's pause," he said. "Is it fair to challenge me on Trump's economic stance when you don't even know what you're talking about?" The room went quiet. The interviewer looked rattled. Schulz stayed cool. "This is good," he said, smiling. "We're both here. This is therapy." It was a masterclass in media defense, sharp, logical, and unshaken. Schulz didn't get defensive. He made the journalists defend their own premise. And when they couldn't, the power dynamic flipped. Elsewhere, Brie Chicken Fry, yes, that's a nickname, not a typo, delivered one of the most awkwardly charming moments in podcast history on Theo Von's show. Mid-interview, she asked Theo if he had kids. "No," he said, "no children." Then, out of nowhere, "I'd love to hatch a little bat someday. I'm looking for a wife. Hopefully find one." Theo blinked. "Oh, damn. How old are you?" she asked, trying to recover. Theo, ever the diplomat, waved it off. "Never mind. We're dead." "It's all love. I meant that with all love." "It was peak. I didn't mean to flirt. But here we are. Energy." And while the moment could have derailed, Theo handled it with humor and humility, a reminder that emotional intelligence is just as important as comedy chops. Then there was Matt Rife, interviewed by Bobby Lee. Inside a haunted house, Bobby played it up, screaming, clinging to Matt, pretending to be terrified. Was it genuine? Unlikely. Was it a way to get physically close to a celebrity under the guise of fear? Probably. But when the real interview started, the tone shifted. Bobby's dry, sarcastic style didn't land with Matt, who subtly clapped back. "Stand-up's fun," Matt said, "but it's not my end goal. One day I'd love to have a podcast, but you don't just hand those out. You have to be really lucky." Bobby smirked. "Yeah, really lucky." Translation, Matt was poking fun at Bobby's podcast empire, built on chaos, roasts, and viral moments, implying it wasn't exactly a meritocracy. It was comedy chess, a compliment disguised as humility laced with a jab. Then came Ric Flair's infamous appearance on Kill Tony. The legendary wrestler showed up late, glued to his phone, clearly unaware of the show's brutal roast format. When asked to critique a struggling comic, Flair shocked everyone. "Daniel Shepard? You're incredible," he said warmly. Then to Daniel, "Shut up!" The audience howled. Was he joking? Was he serious? Flair continued, "I'm here to have fun, but I will never embarrass or humiliate anyone." Tony Hinchcliffe stared. We do that here. That's the whole point." Flair didn't care. Do you know how many people are hurt by cruel comments? The irony? He'd spent the whole time ignoring the performers, the very people he claimed to protect. And then, after lecturing them on respect, he announced he was leaving in 1 minute. "No, don't go," Tony pleaded. "I love you." Flair said, walking off. But I'm out. It was a heel turn against the heels, unintentionally hilarious, and a perfect metaphor for celebrity hypocrisy. Bill Burr, arriving at the Mark Twain Prize for Humor, faced a different kind of ambush. Reporters didn't ask about comedy. They came with political grenades. "What's your take on Luigi Mangia?" one asked. Burr didn't hesitate. "If you were reading up, you'd know what I said. Why are you asking me to repeat it?" "Can you clarify?" the reporter pressed. "No," Burr said. "I'm not creating a controversy so you can get clicks." Another question. "You said Elon Musk is ruining Earth. What about the boycotts? The violence?" Burr shrugged. "I don't watch the news. I scroll Instagram. And honestly, you're the journalist. Why are you asking me?" Comedians are supposed to be on top of current events, the reporter insisted. Burr fired back. "No, that's weak. That's you passing the buck. I'm a dancing clown. My job is to make people laugh, not solve the Middle East." It was a powerful moment of self-awareness. Burr knew his role and refused to be elevated into a pundit just because he's famous. Joe Rogan was indirectly dragged into a CNN interview with Tim Dillon when the reporter claimed Rogan had become a shadowy kingmaker, so powerful that comics feared speaking to mainstream media for fear of being blacklisted. "One manager told me his client wouldn't talk to me because Rogan would get mad," she said. Tim didn't hesitate. "That's completely insane. That's not how it works." But instead of dropping it, the reporter pivoted. "Do you think Rogan would talk to me?" Tim chuckled. "He's a big gate. You could try. But if I had his money, I wouldn't be doing interviews either." The subtext was clear. She wasn't just reporting. She was auditioning. Then she doubled down. Where are all the left-wing comedians? Amy Schumer, Michelle Wolf. They've all been canceled. Tim pushed back. "Trevor Noah sells out arenas. He's one of the biggest comedians in the world." And Amy Schumer? She's in her $15 million Brooklyn townhouse. I think she'll survive. The real issue wasn't politics. It was the industry's changing landscape. And yes, the fact that Schumer faced backlash for allegedly stealing jokes. But the idea that progressive comedy is dead? That's a myth. Back on Brilliant Idiots, Schulz and Charlemagne had one of their most intense debates over the term African American. Andrew questioned why Black Americans needed a hyphenated label when white Americans were just American. "We're all from Africa," he argued. "So why is African American necessary when European American isn't?" Charlemagne pushed back. Black Americans don't have a country of origin. That's why the term exists. Andrew insisted he wasn't dismissing history. He was pointing out the inconsistency. White people get to be American, but that's the least accurate label. A white person could be from Australia, Argentina, anywhere. Yet only non-white groups get labeled. Things escalated when Charlemagne suggested Andrew's logic echoed white supremacist talking points. "No," Andrew shot back. "You didn't listen. I'm saying the default is flawed. And you're so quick to call racism that you're missing the point." Alex tried to mediate, but the tension was thick. Finally, Andrew stepped back. "This isn't worth it," he said. "Let's move on." They did. No resolution. Just two strong minds clashing. A reminder that even friends can hit ideological walls. Extended section, 5 minutes of new content. These moments aren't just entertaining. They reveal a deeper cultural shift. Comedians are no longer just entertainers. They're cultural commentators, truth-tellers, and often the only voices willing to speak plainly in a world of spin. But with that comes pressure. The media wants comedians to be activists, politicians, moral authorities. And when they refuse, they're accused of being irresponsible. When they engage, they're accused of overstepping. That's why moments like Bill Burr's red carpet shutdown are so important. He didn't pretend to have answers. He said, "I'm not qualified. I'm a clown." And in doing so, he highlighted a broken system, one where journalists outsource their responsibility to entertainers. Meanwhile, Joe Rogan's influence, real or imagined, shows how podcasting has disrupted traditional media. Networks like CNN used to control the narrative. Now, a guy in a garage with a microphone can reach millions, and the establishment doesn't like it. That's why the Rogan effect narrative keeps coming up. Not because it's true, but because it's threatening. The idea that comedy, conversation, and long-form dialogue can shape culture outside of mainstream gatekeepers. That's revolutionary. And then there's the issue of tone. Comedians like Bobby Lee, Theo and Schulz don't speak in sound bites. They ramble, contradict themselves, and change their minds on air. That's not unprofessional. It's human. But journalists trained in binary thinking often can't handle it. They want clear answers. Comedians give messy truths. Take the Brendan shower incident with Mike Tyson. On the surface, it looked like a comedian poking a legend. But underneath, it was a clash of worlds. The irreverent, boundary-pushing comedy scene versus the raw, unfiltered intensity of someone like Tyson, who's lived through real violence. When Shower kept pushing, "You didn't finish those cigarettes," he wasn't just joking. He was testing power. And when Mike stood up, stepped into his space, and stared him down, the message was clear. There are lines you don't cross. Daniel Cormier saw it coming. I hope Mike don't learn to kick with that size 14. It was a joke, but also a warning. Comedy has limits. And when you're in the room with someone who's been in a real fight, you remember that not everything is a punchline. Whitney Cummings' attempt to set up Haley Welch with a stand-up spot, while well-intentioned, shows another side of the industry, the danger of performative kindness. Throwing someone on stage cold isn't encouragement, it's exploitation. And Matt Rife knew it. "Don't do that to her," he said, because he's been there. He knows how brutal a crowd can be. And Theo Von's take on Logan Paul? "I don't want to die on this planet." That wasn't just a joke. It was a class critique. One man is stressed about tire pressure and rent. Another is fantasizing about escaping Earth. The gap isn't just financial, it's existential. Even Ric Flair's meltdown on Kill Tony says something deeper. Many celebrities love the idea of authenticity, but can't handle the reality. They want respect, but only on their terms. They'll preach kindness while ignoring the people right in front of them. And that's the thread connecting all these moments. Authenticity versus performance. Comedians like Schulz, Burr, and Rogan win not because they're the loudest, but because they're the most real. They don't hide behind scripts. They argue. They change their minds. They walk off when it's fake. In a world of curated images and algorithm-driven outrage, that honesty is revolutionary. And maybe that's why journalists keep trying to trap them. Because when a comedian refuses to play the game and instead makes you explain your own nonsense, the power shifts. And the joke's on them. Drop your thoughts in the comments and, as always, stay awesome.